Alright guys, this video is going to be really quick on how to show you how to replace the rear backup cam on a Ram. In this case it's a 2019 Ram Limited 1500. Okay, but it should work on most Rams. Let's go inside the truck and let me show you how to do it. I already have it on. So let's take a look. See, I already have the screen on. I have the button set to the run position. I hit the backup cam button. So basically down here at the bottom, we could also go to apps and then backup cam. I have it set up here. We could just hit the backup cam. Comes on. I replaced it already with an aftermarket backup cam, but there are no lines on for the backup guidance, okay, that when you put it in reverse that you could see those lines, nor the zoom button doesn't work. Okay, normally in the settings you could go to the gear button up top here, and then you go to camera, and then you got park view rear camera, and then you have the backup camera, delay, active guidelines or fixed guidelines. Neither one of them work, okay? Because what I found out is that the aftermarket cameras, they do not come, even though this is software and you'd imagine that the software you could turn on those guidance lines. For aftermarket cameras, it's actually, the software is built into the camera board itself that's in the camera. So I replaced this backup camera 3 times already and got the same result where we've got the backup camera. We got the backup camera with no lines. I mean, this camera's got a pretty beautiful picture and all, but you can't zoom on it. And believe it or not, once you've got it and you've used it with backup, with those backup guidance lines, it is hard to go back without it. It makes it so much easier. So I was able to find it on sale for almost half the price of what most Ram dealerships and Mopar sells it for. I bought it from a website called Mopar Direct. It's actually a Ram dealer in Long Island somewhere, but they have a website, Mopar Direct. I thought I was buying it from Mopar itself, but it's actually a specific Ram dealer, and I was able to get this backup cam for $108. So pretty good price there for on sale, versus $200 at the dealership plus. And they were willing to work with me a little bit, but it was still nowhere near the discount I got here. Now, contrarily, the aftermarket backup cams, you could get them for $35, $45, $55. But the thing is, they got nice pictures. Some of them they're not so good. This one has got a great picture. I got it for like $50, $45, $50. Great picture, but the only problem is the backup lines. So, you know, for me, I want that to work on my truck, especially if I'm using a trailer and backing up, and it just makes it so much easier, especially with the active guidelines. So let's go back there and I'm going to show you how to replace it. I'm going to swap out this aftermarket camera because my factory camera turned to crap where the backup lines still worked, but you couldn't see anything. I don't know, sometimes they get micro cracks in them or whatever it is that it looked foggy as hell. Sometimes I had a clear picture, sometimes it was just horrible, and at nighttime it was generally horrible, especially if there's headlights or anything on there or any lights behind. You couldn't see anything. And I use my backup camera to back up a lot. So let's get there and let's get to the back of it and I'll show you how to do this, okay? So first step here is we're going to open up the tailgate. Whoop, let me get my key, unlock it. You could also hit the release button twice. Unlocks it. Whoop. Looks like that's... Sometimes this very light tail bed sometimes gets jammed up, especially if I got stuff in the back, or I don't know why I just did that, but if I just push it sometimes and then it'll release. Okay, so there we go. I got a couple of gas cans back here. Big deal. All right. Let me show you how me just set up my camera here so you guys can see how this is done. Put it at a little bit of an angle here. First step, have a drill. You're going to need to take out, there are a couple of Torx bit. We zoom in on it, a couple of Torx bit screws here. 1, 2, you can see this is actually a panel over here. This is actually a panel. We're going to remove this panel that runs along the bed. See the seam over here? Okay, so we're going to take out all these bolts, 2 there, 1 there, 1 there, 1 here, 1 there, 2 more here. We're going to take them out and remove them. Now to remove them, we're going to need a T30 Torx head bit. Okay, it's a T30 Torx head bit. Kind of looks like a star. You see that? And that's T30. T30 Torx head bit. Kind of gives you that, looks like a star right there. And we're going to remove them right now real quick. So you put that on the drill head. I'm just going to unscrew them. I'm not even going to pull them all the way out. We're going to lift up the whole panel. Makes it a lot easier. Okay. Now we lift this up. You may need a screwdriver if it's the first time you're doing it. I did it a couple times. So not my first time. So I'm going to lift it up, pull it out of the way. I'm also going to wipe off the edge. It's got a little slime on it. Let me get a rag. Okay. So I'm going to wipe off the edge around here. Any wetness, grime, I'm going to keep that out of there and make sure that this is sealed nicely. Okay. Do that right there on the edge of this too. Wipe that off. Looks like I had some dampness in there. That's just my OCD. You don't need to do this per se, but track your bolts, make sure you don't lose these. All right, now next step. We need to take a look at what's going on inside here. Okay, let me get the camera close so you guys can see. All right, so what's the deal here? How do we remove this? Basically, we're going to remove these 2 bolts. So we're going to need ourselves a ratchet, and the ratchet will have a 10mm head on it. Okay, so we need a ratchet with a 10mm ratchet to remove these 2 bolts. Then we're going to need us, a flathead screwdriver. So we got ourselves the ratchet with the 10mm bolt, a little bit of an extension. We're going to have our we're going to have a flathead screwdriver so that we could help pry it off a little bit. And then we're also going to need another Torx bit of a different size to take apart the unit and remove the unit where the camera is. And this is going to be a T20 bit. I don't know if you can see that there. It's a little bit rusted up. A T20 Torx head bit. Okay, just a star bit as well, but T20. All right, so let's start off. Here is the original camera that I had in there. That's the way that it looks. You can see the Mopar logo there, the Dodge logo. It looks perfectly fine, but it actually does not work. It's very foggy. Works, but it works horribly. So we're going to replace that with a new one. A new one I just got in from Mopar. You can see it's a Mopar original part. Take it out of the box here. It's in a bubble wrap, and it looks just like the one. Let's keep them separated. Okay, so it looks just the same. It's got that Mopar logo on there. Let's see if we can zoom in on that so you get a better look of what it says on the label. Alright, so these things look exactly the same, side by side, right? This is the good one, this is the new one, this is the old one, so I'm going to throw this one off to the side, get that out of the way. We're going to keep this one, I'll put it in the packaging right there. And let's remove this, do what we have to do here. So just break that loose a little bit, then you can remove it with your by hand. Break that one loose, remove it the rest of the way by hand. Alright, and now you notice it didn't fall out. Well, what is to fall out? That's that handle there, okay? That's the handle that opens up the bed that the camera is inside of. So we could try pushing down on it, and sometimes it could pop it out. But basically, if you look, there are these little tangs here on it, these plastic tangs that basically lie over the metal. And then on this side, it kind of snaps in. We just got to pry it out a little bit with that flathead screwdriver on both sides until it drops out. So that's what I'm going to do right now. You guys can try to see, take a look, get the camera here as close as I can over. All right, get this camera head over here, and I'm going to hold it from the bottom. On the bottom, I'm going to put my hand underneath, and we're just going to try to pry at it a little bit on this side. Go out on the other side. We don't want to break any of this plastic. Sorry, they're doing construction next door. We're down the street a little bit. I'm trying to stick this between the handle. That loose. Don't go breaking anything though. Don't pry it too much, of course. Okay, hit that. Just want to pry at it a little bit. Don't be too forceful with it. There's not really anything. You gotta find a place where you can stick that in. Getting loose. I don't know if you can see where I'm prying over here. Prying at the edges. You can zoom in on it a little bit for you. You can see where I'm trying to stick it here in between the seam and the handle. Twist it. Twist it so I'm not going to pry too much. It will let go eventually. Even though it sounds like you're breaking it, you got to be careful. Make sure that you don't. Go back and forth on the other side. Work around the edges here where you can get it to pry it out. Usually it comes out a lot easier than this. I don't know what's the hold up today. What's all the hubbub? Okay, looks like it's releasing. And on this side, there we go. You see, once it pops out and it releases, you see the tabs. See the tabs over here? How you just let the front drop out, and it just drops out like that, comes out and it separates, and then the whole unit hangs by the wires over here. So we got to be careful with that wires. So let me drop the camera down here so that you can see better what we're doing. So you have this piece right here that holds the unit on. You get that flathead screwdriver again. I'm not going to release that just yet. I first want to pry out the camera connection. So basically this whole thing will separate right here from the base, but we got to do it from here. You could even get like a little needle if you can, a pick, or right here, and you see that separates. There's that little tab that holds it in place. So that comes off like that, and that plugs in. And then this one up here, you could just do this with your finger. Pull that red tab up and grab this. This is for the electronics for the actual door lock mechanism. And then this is the part, kind of holds it in like body panels. Those plastic tab holders. There we go, we got that out. See, that was just holding it in like that. All right, so now we'll lift this up and let me show you how we replace the camera. Okay, so I'm not going to be holding the camera, I'm going to be working out of the way here. So this is the new camera, the good one, and we're going to have to pull the old one out of here. Okay, now in order to pull this old one out, we're going to have to remove this screw, this one, and this one. Not these two. These two would be for releasing the other part of the clamshell where the door lock button is underneath here. Okay, so here's that video camera, and we just need to get this out and this out, this and this, and it's going to separate. There's a seam over here, this separates. So I'll show you what I mean right now. Let's just get our T20 Torx bit, put that on our drill head. Oops. Okay, and these two, and this one. So that's the good new one. So basically we're going to take that out, put them off to the side. These two, now you can see right here where the clamshell separates, right there. These bolts out all the way, yep. Okay, so the whole unit's, there we go, we took it off, it's separated on its own. Now when we put it back, we're going to make sure that this part goes on first. So let's just set this off to the side. Don't lose these two nuts that I didn't take out, those two screws. This is already unbolted, but this lifts out. You can see the direction that it's facing, how the shape is. So this, you just lift this out. It may be on there a little bit because it kind of sort of clips in onto that edge. Okay, so you take that out, and then you can see that one of the edges go out there. So that'll be like this. It's going in like that. So basically we just turn it over, and we could take our screwdriver, our flathead screwdriver again, but in this case I know I can do it with my fingers, so I'm just going to do it slightly. We're going to bend this out just slightly so that the camera can come out, and I pull it out. There we go, and it goes in like that. So now I'm going to take the other camera, the new one, the new Ram one, mopar, and basically it'll just sit in that cradle. So we're going to put this edge in first. It's going to go under that slot. I'm going to pull this out just a little bit so that it then pops in, and then that just holds it in place like that. You know, it's not going anywhere. Okay, and that's all that holds it in place there. There's no screws that hold that in. Okay, now we just put this back on. Oh, make sure the camera goes in the hole there, and then snap that on. That's in place. Okay, then we put the clamshell back on. We're basically going to start with the top piece right here. Goes on the center. Now, before I do that, you see here, this is a clean edge. Now if you look at that line there, when we put it together, it looks like it's not going to be sitting straight, but it is. But there's actually, this is straight here, not there. So it's going to look like there's a little gap when we put it back on, but it's actually seated properly. So once again, we're going to start by looking at the top, and we're just going to put the top on like that on the clamshell, and we're just going to let it kind of fall into place. Okay, so we put it on like that, and then it falls into place. Don't force it. Probably be easier if we took the screw out here and here so that it'll line up right. Put them screws in their hole. Okay, so now that it's sitting properly, see what I mean by it's sitting flat here, but it doesn't look like it's flat. Okay, but it is. So what we'll do is we'll put those screws back in there. This screw back in there. Just turn it a little bit. Grab our drill. And we're going to tighten everything back up. Okay, so I'm not going to tighten it all the way, just get it started. Okay. And now we could tighten it all up once we see that everything's sitting right. Okay, it appears to be sitting right, so we're going to tighten it all up. Don't over tighten it. You don't want to break it. It is plastic parts here. All right, so now we're going to go from underneath, and we're going to feed in the bottom. And remember these plastic tangs right here, they will catch on to the door. So those plastic tabs, they're just going to rest in here. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to come from underneath with the whole unit, and I'm going to stick those, I'm going to stick the unit inside and then put those tabs up there, make sure that they're underneath, and I'll snap it into place. But first we need to hook up the electronics again. So let's get back to that. So let me put the camera in the right position, drop it down, drop it again so that we're at the right height here, and you'll see what as we put it back together. So now we just take the camera to the plugs, and we also have a hanger. Show you the complete thing. Here we go. Zoomed out. So this hanger, we're going to put that into place first so that we can work kind of free, and that'll hold it there in place if we were to let go of it. All right, this plugs back in, it snaps in, that's it. And then this one, we push that back on. After that's pushed back on, then we push back down that red tab, Now the electronics are all hooked back up. So next step is I'm going to take this off the camera stand, show you what we're doing underneath here. I don't know if you can get a good view of it. Let me zoom out a little bit, make sure that you do. So there's the hole there that it goes into, and we're going to just kind of feed that into the hole. Okay, so let's go up to the top. We're going to feel around from the bottom, but we're not going to be looking from the bottom. We're going to look from the top. Okay, so let's make sure that we get this in place right. I'm going to show you. We'll get the camera in place. Look at this. I'm handling the camera and assembling this at the same time. Look at that. So we just maneuver the whole assembly into place. These tabs right here, remember, we just hooked them over the edge on both sides. And once they're there, hooked in on the edge on both sides, we just push up with both of our hands until we snap it into place like that. Now it's just going to stay. Now we know that it's snapped in there pretty good, but we're going to put these bolts back in now, and we're almost done. So let's hand tighten that. Let's get the other one, hand tighten that. Then we'll snug it up with the ratchet. Don't over tighten it. Remember, these metal pieces are hooked into plastic. We don't want to snap anything, but we want it tight enough. Okay, so that's done. So we're done with that ratchet piece. All right, and now we take our old, okay, this is our aftermarket camera. We're going to return that. So let me put that out of the way so I don't hurt it. Get our tools out of the way here. We're going to have to put our T30 Torx head bit back on the drill, because we're done with this assembly. The camera's back in. If you want, you could go test it right now, but it's going to be facing the ground. So what we're going to do is just see, how do we put it back together now? And how are we putting this back together? Goes back just the way we took it apart. So got a T30 bit on there. Get that out of the way. Make sure our nuts are in there, our bolts are in place. You just kind of drop it into place here. Make sure that the holes are kind of lined up on both sides. You can see that these will line up on both sides and drop into space. Now it's just a matter of tightening them all up. So let's tighten up. I'm not going to button them down all the way yet, but these ones, we'll just get them all down. I'm not going to torque them all the way down just yet. That's on there tight. So now we'll get them all cranked down. So we got a nice tight seal. So we don't get any water in there. And that's the job. It's done. It's complete. That's all that's to it. Let me get this stuff out of the way. Put the tools out of the way. Okay. Now we close up the bed, and the job is done. But let's test it out first to make sure everything's working now. So we'll just make sure, we'll wipe it off, make sure that that's clean, and let's go inside the truck. All right, drum roll please. We don't have to start it up. We could just put it in a run position, or you could start it, doesn't matter. I'm gonna hit the backup camera, and we could see that the camera is installed, and look, them backup lines are now there and working. Now, if we were to go to the zoom, we could also see that the zoom feature is working too. We could zoom in with this camera. Aftermarket cams, you can't. So if you're trying to line up your tail hitch to a trailer you're towing, you could zoom in. You know, that's an important feature. Or you could have it zoomed out like that. Now those tail lines, they tell you how far you are away from an object. The green, the yellow, the red, that's when your emergency brakes will start applying automatically for you, unless you shut them off in the setting. And if we were to go to here, to the gear, we go down to the camera, the park view, assist, backup delay camera is on. That just means that when you put it back in drive gear, the backup camera will stay on for a few as you ride down the road for like 5 seconds or so. Okay, we have our active guidelines set. You can only set one or the other. I don't think you can set them both. Yeah, you can't. You can only set one or the other. So what are the camera fixed guidelines? Well, if we were to go to our backup camera with that setting, that camera is fixed. And if I were to turn the steering wheel, here, let's start the truck. If I were to turn the steering wheel, let's put the backup camera back on. You see those lines? They don't turn, but yet I'm turning the steering wheel here. Now, if we turn to the, if we go back to the settings there, get out of here, go back to the camera, park view, and we put the active guidelines on, which is the one I prefer. We'll just X out of these settings now. Get out of them altogether. We go to our backup camera. Now, if I turn the steering wheel, this is what happens. If you look at that, I'm going to turn the steering wheel in one direction or the other. So when you're backing up, those guidelines actually turn to keep you on track for where it is that you need to go. It shows you where you're going to be turning. So I prefer that. That works a lot better for me. All right. So anyway, that's how you replace the backup cam on a 2019 Ram 1500. I'm sure it works for other models too. After that, 2019 to 2021, 2022, I'm sure it works the same way. The earlier models, 2018 and earlier, there is where the camera is set up, there are not actuators that are electronic that hold the door locked for the tailgate, but it's actually, there's a rod inside there and you have to disconnect the rod, so there's a little extra step. I'm sure you can find videos online for how to do that. But this one, it's just electronics that if you try to open up the tailgate, it releases the two locking mechanisms on both sides of the tailgate. That is an actual rod, and it's done manually with 2018 and earlier models. Okay, so it's a lot easier here. 2019 is just all electronics. Okay, and that's all that's to it. Okay, so we've completed the job successfully. And for those people who want to know how you turn on those backup camera guidelines, well, that's how you do it. You go to the settings, camera, backup, and you turn on active guidelines or camera fixed guidelines. Okay, and that's what the backup camera delay is. It's just when you put it in drive, it just, the reverse camera stays on for a little while longer. Like here, let me go and show you. So if I got the radio on and then I put it in reverse, you see the backup camera comes on, but now I put it in drive gear, the backup camera stays on for a little while. It'll shut off watching like 5 seconds or something. 5 or 10 seconds. There you go. And then it shuts back off. Unfortunately, you can't drive with the backup camera on. I guess it's a distraction. They don't want that. So, but you can turn it on, and it'll only stay on like another 5 or 10 seconds when you're got it in drive still. You'll see it'll shut off on its own. You could stay in there for a little while, but not too long when it's still in drive. Maybe you got to be moving for that to happen. But I know it doesn't stay on. It will shut off when you're moving. But I got my foot on the brake, and even though we're in drive, it's not coming out now. But when you're moving, it does come off like after 5 seconds or so. So that's it. All right, awesome. Shut that off. Job well done. Thanks for watching, guys. Go like my channel. Love it, like it, share it with others. Appreciate it. Bye.